In the vast and dynamic world of the Siege esports scene, few names have risen to the top quite like Nicholas Moritzen. From his early gaming days to becoming a globally recognized figure in the Siege community, Pengu's journey is the perfect example of sheer dedication, hard work, and an undying passion for the game. In today's video, I'll be doing a deep dive into the saga of Pengu, telling his life story, and how he became Rainbow Six Siege's greatest prodigy. Nicholas Moritzen was born in Denmark on October 7th, 1997. His early life was much like that of any other child. From a young age, Pengu displayed an affinity for video games, with him getting his first PC at just the age of 4. While many children played games for fun, Pengu approached them with a mix of joy and dedication that set him apart from his peers. His parents, like many of their time, might have viewed gaming as a mere hobby, perhaps even a distraction from more productive activities. However, for Pengu, it was clear that gaming was more than just a way to pass the time. It was a passion. The hours he spent gaming were not just about enjoyment. They were about mastering the skills, understanding the game mechanics, and improving his strategic thinking. As he grew older, the world of competitive gaming began to emerge as a legitimate field, with tournaments, professional teams, and a growing fan base. Games like Counter-Strike and League of Legends were starting to become examples of what esports can really be like. Pengu's early introduction to gaming meant that he was well positioned to take advantage of this new era. He immediately began trying to compete in games like Heroes of the Storm, and even League of Legends, like mentioned earlier. However, this wouldn't end up working out for him. The farthest he would make it was qualifiers at a League of Legends tournament. This may have been disappointing for someone as competitive as himself. However, things were about to change for good when Siege was announced on June 9th, 2014. After watching the E3 trailer, it was clear that Rainbow Six Siege was not just another FPS. It was a completely unique title that was about to change the competitive first-person shooter scene forever. This caused Pengu's friend to immediately show it to him, and well, Pengu was hooked. And with the game launching in December 2015, he wouldn't have to wait long for the game to release. Upon launching, it was immediately obvious that the uniqueness portrayed in the trailer was accurate. Rainbow Six Siege launched with a blend of tactical gameplay, destructible environments, and a heavy emphasis on teamwork. This was a game where raw gun skill was just one part of the equation. Strategy, communication, and adaptability played equally crucial roles, and some would argue they were even more important. And this unique gameplay immediately drew Pengu in. This game's strong reliability on teamwork made him want to put in the hours to master it, and he would spend his initial hours in the game doing just that. While he had a foundation from other games like League of Legends, Rainbow Six Siege's unique mechanics required a fresh approach. He spent countless hours understanding each operator's abilities, the intricacies of every map, and forming strategies that took advantage of that knowledge. You have to keep in mind that the pro players of the time were traveling in untreaded territory. There was no default strategies. Players of the time had to craft their own strategies, which added an even higher skill ceiling. And Pengu was all for it. It offered an area for him to show off his brains by outsmarting his opponents rather than just having to use gun skill. And because of his instant love for the game, he obviously wanted to get into the pro scene as soon as possible.
Random forum post stating my name, my age, my dedication. I think the title specifically, looking to go pro or at least to the top. One guy responded called Iga, and from Czech. We made a team with me, him, 3 German players. We went pro.
Him managing to get onto a team like Penta this early was a huge relief. Penta, being already a recognized name in the esports community, provided Pengu with the platform and resources to truly hone his skills. Surrounded by a team of equally passionate and skilled players, Pengu began to evolve not just as an individual player, but as a crucial component of a cohesive unit. And after he won the Year 1 Season 1 group stages with his new team Penta, it was clear he wanted to do nothing else. However, to make this dream a reality, he and the rest of Penta were going to have to try their best to learn as much about the game as possible so that they could surpass their opponents. Pengu, with his analytical mind, often played a central role in this learning process, offering insights and strategies that would shape the team's future gameplay. The team's sheer dedication would show when they won the Year 1 Season 1 finals of Pro League, with Pengu himself taking home $5,000. This may not seem like much, but for a kid who dropped out of university to pursue his dreams, this small amount of money showed him that his dream could become a reality with hard work. And part of that hard work was going to be him building his own brand. This would begin with him streaming himself playing the game for countless hours and trying to learn as much as he could, allowing him to submit himself in the community outside of just professional play. However, the countless hours of streaming were only just to build his name. It was also to help him solve the biggest issue in his professional career.
I was probably the worst Pro League player in FPS game ever because I came from League of Legends. I had no experience. So I invented my own playstyle that relied around anything but FPS games. I would hold an angle, play off reaction time. I'm young. And it worked, whereas most people, they would play off aiming and accuracy. as the game went on, there was a character called Blackbeard that came out in Year 1 Season 2, but had a face shield, which meant you couldn't kill him with headshots. And I was like, oh, I'm a terrible player. I'm gonna pick up this extremely overpowered character, and I'm gonna use it as a handicap until I learn how to play the game properly. So in professional play, I was playing Blackbeard only to mask the fact that I was terrible at the game. And in my spare time, I was grinding 10, 12 hours a day with anything but Blackbeard to like catch up on the mechanics that I was bad at.
But the countless hours of streaming and focusing on supporting his team eventually resulted in his gunplay surpassing his superiors, which would help his team continue to have professional success. This success would continue all the way through 2017, with them racking up a whopping 9 first-place finishes across Pro League and the various events they played at. However, by this point, the team was compiled of a completely different roster. Players like Fabian, Goga, Shate, and Jonas were now playing alongside Pengu, leaving his old roster behind. However, this roster would quickly prove that they were the best team in the world at Siege's biggest event ever, the 2018 Invitational. The Six Invitational 2017 was a pretty big deal for any professional team. It offered a massive international competition bigger than any event ever before, and the reward for the winner was a whopping $500,000 prize pool, meaning that if there was ever a time for Penta to prove themselves as the best team in the world, it would be right here at this event. And quickly after the event began, fans immediately noticed how strong of a team they were. After beating Vitality and Evil Geniuses in groups and going on to beat Ants and Black Dragons in the quarters and semis, Penta found themselves in the finals against North America's star team who had won the previous Invitational. This team just so happened to be Evil Geniuses, a team they had 2-1'd early in the group stages. However, with the finals being a best of 5, anything was possible, and Evil Geniuses would manage to do the unthinkable. Evil Geniuses clearly caught Pengu and his team off guard, and he quickly found himself 2 maps down in the finals of the biggest event in Siege history. Obviously, the stress levels were through the roof, and the team knew they had to do something to turn their awful performance around. They couldn't let Evil Geniuses continue to walk all over them like they did the previous 2 maps. Luckily, after some motivational speaking from their in-game leader Fabian and their coach Shaz, Pengu and the rest of the roster had managed to shake off the mental toll of the last 2 games. But they had to win the next map, because if they didn't, Evil Geniuses would be crowned the winners of the 6th Invitational for the 2nd time in a row. Luckily, Penta managed to show EG what they were really made of. After winning the first map, Penta obviously were feeling much better mentally, and they had managed to shake EG's mental a little bit too. And this is when the table started to turn as Penta went into the second match, because once again, they would manage to pull out a pretty heavy victory. After their pretty sizable victory against EG in the second match, Evil Genius's mental was completely shaken. You could tell as soon as they got up from the desk. This would give Penta a massive advantage going into the next map. However, this still wouldn't be an easy task. EG was still the best team in the world according to their trophy cabinet. But at the end of the 5th game on Coastline, Pengu would find himself in a career-changing moment, a 1v2. And this is where he would manage to prove himself as one of the best players in the world.
Wait, or rather the Hibana, just waiting. They'll look to push together. The The diffuser in a position where they'll have to see when the Hibana goes through. One will cover the doorway. As they start to defuse, Pengu goes for one on the Young. Can he go the second? They're often known as the best team in the world, never having that distinction until today. Penta are your world champions.
The Six Invitational 2018 proved to be an extremely pivotal moment in Pengu's career. It was an emotional roller coaster that proved that as long as him and his team worked together, they could accomplish anything they wanted to do in the realm of Siege. However, this wasn't anywhere near the end for Pengu and his pro career. This just marked the start of a new chapter. Now, off the backs of the 2018 Invitational, Penta was looking good. They had proved to be one of the best teams in the world from a strategic point of view. However, success also brought its own set of challenges. As top players, Penta was now under the microscope of every other player in the league, with teams studying their gameplay to find weaknesses and counter strategies. This meant that Penta had to evolve and adapt their playstyle to stay one step ahead of the competition. They couldn't just sit back and get complacent because this would cause them to start losing games. So they acquired a new fragger for the roster in the form of Cancer Raketti to help the team evolve and adapt to the more fragging-oriented playstyle that the game was going in, and he would play a huge role in the team's success. Additionally, Pengu began taking up a leadership role in his team around this time, helping Fabian make decisions on the fly when needed. Pengu's extensive knowledge of the game at the professional level made him the perfect guy for the job, and it helped to add even more depth to the team's playstyle. However, in the process of improving, the entire team was offered to be bought out by a bigger organization, G2. This was a huge deal for the team because it offered them more funding and connections that could help them improve their game. But it also helped Pengu as an individual grow his brand because he now had a bigger organization with more of a content creation background at his disposal. However, despite this amazing new organization behind him, he still had one of the biggest events of the year right around the corner, that being the 2018 Paris Major. The Paris Major was stacking up to be an extremely good event. All the teams that qualified were way better than last time around. So Pengu had a pretty big job ahead of him. However, Pengu and his teammates had been putting in the hours in practice, and they went into the Paris Major in the strongest state we have ever seen the roster. So much so that they went through the entire event without dropping a single map. Yes, you heard me right. Penta did not drop a single map throughout the entire event. Not in the group stages.
And there's Jonas finishing things off 12-4.
Not in the semifinals.
Diffuser down. No, it's Pengu. The Danish superstar will give G2 the win.
Not even in the finals against their previous rivals, Evil Geniuses.
Getting the victory, and he goes down. G2 will take the win. And for one more time, G2 will take it.
This goes to show just how far ahead Penta was from the competition. They had pulled ahead, and by a large margin. Some cite the addition of Kanto, and others cite the team's sheer dedication to being the best. And while these all may have had something to do with it, I think the biggest reason is the amazing leadership that Shaz, Fabian, and Pengu brought to the table. Having Fabian to snap you out of it when a game is going south, Pengu there to make last-minute decisions in the late game, and Shaz to study the teams you are versing to create counter strategies is obviously going to be a combination destined for success. Following the victory at the Paris Major, G2 decided to attend the minor DreamHack Winter 2018. With G2 being as dominant as they were easily able to stomp their easier competition in this tournament, including up-and-coming prodigies, Team Empire. After another extremely easy tournament, Pro League had become predictable for fans. The audience just assumed that G2 was going to win, and Pengu had made a name for himself as the best player on the roster, and arguably all of Siege. Well, people would begin to question this during the start of Season 9 of Pro League. G2 esports weren't playing like themselves, including Pengu. They found themselves at the halfway point of the season in 4th place with 2 wins, 3 draws, and 2 losses, while the up-and-coming Team Empire were dominating with 6 wins and only 1 draw. People were extremely distraught as to what could have caused this massive shift within the team's play overnight. And the only explanation people could come up with was that G2 had made the decision to intentionally throw and, quote, save strats for the 6 Invitational. Yes, G2 was so strong at the time that people thought that the only way they could be playing this terribly was on purpose.
We've been saving strats on purpose. We've been trying to innovate ourselves, like really restrictively, and showing as little skin as possible. So going to this tournament, we have a variety of maps that we haven't exposed yet. less study on us. We look bad on paper, and most importantly, I think all our opponents are extremely scared because we are the reigning champions.
However, even though things were not looking good for the team professionally, Pengu was starting to see insane success, with him having a charm in game and his subscriber count climbing into the top percentile of Siege creators. Pengu had realistically completed his Siege career. He had won 2 international events back-to-back, grinded to the top of the content game, and had himself immortalized in the game in the form of a charm. There really wasn't anything else left for him to accomplish. This thought would slowly begin to eat away at him in the back of his mind. However, G2 still had an invitational to win, and I know how ridiculous the saving strats idea may have sounded, but fans may have been right.
Be faced with a shield in front. Long-range rifle, the OTS-03. Cantor Ricchetti as well to try and push in.
Just over 25 HP, but with the Doc alive, there's that potential to heal him back up. They actually do it mid-combat, which leads him
into Rips, who looks into him and rips into him. Pengu will find the kill on Vale as he'll be the one to finish him off, and Yunus for the last one to secure victory for G2.
There's plenty of defense here, and it's Cantor Ricchetti to get his second for this round. In a bad spot, Goga's gonna shut down Redeemer.
Coming on in, there's a push, he'll grab one, but pushed off by Pengu, and there you have it.
G2 made group stages look easy once again, with them not dropping a single map. However, they did have a close call against Space Station Gaming in the quarters, with them barely winning by 1 map. This trend wouldn't continue on to their semifinals game against Team Reciprocity though, because G2 would absolutely steamroll them 2-0. At the end of it all, Pengu found himself once again in the finals, a position he was all too familiar with. The team had spent the entire year intentionally saving strategies for this moment. No one knew what to expect from them because they looked like a completely different team. However, despite what the scoreline might say, Empire would manage to put up an extremely tough fight against G2 in the finals. The first map being the longest overtime ever in professional play.
Scyther, who goes for 1 and picks up his second kill, as the buck from above will just pick off G2. Close to a perfect round back. But Fabian on the retreat traded off, and Scyther looking to try to clutch, and he'll have to against Pengu. But Pengu, nobody's clutching against him. If we will need overtime for map number 1, a beautiful shot by Fabian. He will go in, it doesn't go off. Shepard gets moved to the side. They've been in so far, and Empire will need to be hasty as Goga gets eliminated by Shepard. There's Karzeka too, and Empire pulling this together in the dying seconds, but Kanto will answer back. Karzeka circles on in. Kanto, you have to hurry, as Jonas is going to get gunned down. Plant going down. Joystick sprints out. Karzeka is just waiting and guarding the doorway as Kanto picks one off, but Scyther finishes it, and there's going to be no one. He loses a bit of HP, but he's traded off, and there you finally have it. It might have taken 22 rounds.
The first map, as you can tell, was grueling, especially for Team Empire, who went all the way just to lose. This loss weighed heavily on their mentality for the rest of the next 2 matches, and is probably the culprit of their next 2 matches not even being close, with G2 beating them 7-4 and 7-1. But nonetheless, this meant that Pengu was now a 2-time Invite champion, and he had now won 3 international major events. This was unheard of, and it still is to this day. After this decisive victory, the roster cemented themselves as the best to ever touch Siege. And on top of it all, Pengu cemented his name in the conversation for the best player to ever play the game. However, after this point is where the team began to go through some difficult times. Whether it be the competition catching up or players just not having the same drive as before, this roster would never be the same after this event. After the 2019 Invitational, G2 would go on to lose every international event they played in. They placed second at the Raleigh Major, and they didn't even qualify for the 2020 Invitational naturally. They had to get a pity invite from Ubisoft. And when they actually played in the Invitational, they were eliminated in 7th place. This made that feeling of accomplishment build in Pengu's mind. What's the point of grinding the game professionally if I've already achieved everything? This thought would build as his friends he grew up on the team with left one by one. First it was Goga, then it was Fabian, then finally it was Kanto, and he immediately realized that it was time for him to throw in the towel. He had accomplished so much. It was time for him to finally move on to a new part of his life.
It's kind of like the connection to, you do want to step down the line. And I think some people might look at this and say, oh, you know, they didn't win much this year, so retirement is coming. But to be honest, retirement kind of came into my head for the first time during the most successful events of my career. Playing to be the absolute best was what created us into what we can call the legacy team that we were. The mentality in our team was always winning because you were better, because you were the best, not because you were giving a clutch because you won like with a slim second. It was always about absolute dominance. I think my favorite memory is like right before a massive game at the biggest event of the year. Biggest event of our lives actually, in fact. And we're doing Fortnite dances backstage with not a single care in the world. It's like the pressure wasn't even there. And then doing that and going on and actually having a stellar performance and winning the event was like, dude, we can just be friends, have fun, and play a really good Siege together. That's phenomenal. I still want to generate content, and I would love to attend invitationals, whether it's as a fan, as a content creator, as an analyst, whatever it might be. I want to be there.
Despite quitting professional play, Pengu is still heavily involved in the professional scene, with him now being a full-blown caster on the big stage. He also continues to play Siege to this day, uploading and streaming content for all of us to enjoy. And he is successful no less, with nearly 600,000 subscribers on YouTube and over 1 million followers on Twitch. Now, where all of this will take him, I honestly don't know. But I think we can all agree that Pengu has made a massive effect on the game that we all know and love. He was a key piece in the foundation of the professional play we know and love today. And he has made a massive contribution to the community as a whole via his content and casting. I wish Pengu nothing but the best in his future endeavors because he deserves every bit of success he achieves. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, I make Siege content just like this twice a week, so go subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter if you don't want to miss the next upload. Also, if you want to get involved in future videos, go ahead and hop on over to the Discord. I want to get more active over there, and I'm sure we'll have some great fun. Now, if you want to watch another video just like this one, a video will be popping up on your screen right now where I talk about how Jinxie became the king of Twitch. I'll see you next time, friends, and peace.